Good afternoon. Welcome to the session. My name is Mathew Varghese, and I am a principal architect for cloud and digital softwares. I work for Cisco Systems, and I'm based in Singapore. I'm responsible for the Asia Pacific and Japan region, where I have the opportunity to work with a lot of emerging industries and economies where cloud is being tried at scale, and those levels of scales are way beyond what we see in most of the other developed economies. So this session is focusing on some of the learnings, and it's not comprehensive, but it's taking some of the key lessons that we have learned from an industry called Fintechs or financial technologies. Now, quick show of hands, how many of you here have had an experience working with Fintechs or know about Fintechs? Okay, there's one gentleman here, which gives me an opportunity to take you quickly through a brief introduction to Fintechs. So Fintechs or financial technologies are organizations which are evolving within the financial industry, and they are using a combination of technology and rather they're using technology to deliver products and services. And this technology which they are using is developed in-house or bought or co-developed. And a classic example of one of the incumbent or traditional fintechs would be, say, Bank of America or TD Bank, who have sort of brought in new technologies in the digital space and become fintechs. Aside of that, there are what we call as fintech disruptors. These are startup companies who have no legacy, and all that they do is they come in and disrupt the industry with software applications which are built from ground zero. And this particular lessons learned is specifically targeting that particular industry, which is the startup fintechs, and predominantly the focus here is on the payments, the digital payments or digital wallets as we call it, fintechs. And as you can see, there's tremendous amount of money being pumped in. As of date, there are over 1,000 plus fintech companies and over 12.7 billion in funding for these companies, which means they have enough money to invest in technology and try out the benefits, or rather provide benefits to their customers. So when you look at these startups, they usually start with 7 key technology areas, or rather they focus on the 7 technology areas, starting from the back office, which has cloud and big data. Now this is where the back office is where the product is developed, and cloud is one of the platforms used to develop the product. And big data and analytics is used basically to derive sense out of the customer engagement, the customer's engagement with their business, and then deliver personalized services to the customer from the front office. So the middle portion is what we call as the middle office. This is the connectivity. This is where the APIs come into place, connecting the back office and the front office to the ecosystem partners like payment gateways, intermediary banks, and everybody. And then finally, the product is delivered through what we call as the front office, which is also called the distribution area, where you have mobile, we have social, and you have the apps. These are the 3 technologies. So when you look at these payment companies, the startups in the fintech, they use these technologies to deliver 3 or to derive 3 key business outcomes: efficiency, sustainable business models, and unique and excellent customer experience. So what does that mean from a workload development standpoint? What it essentially means is the applications that you are developing have to be accurate, they have to be fast, and they have to scale. All of this under the watchful eyes of maybe a regulator or a compliance team. So now this is the big challenge, right? Building applications at scale, which are really good, which are cheap, but conforming to regulation and compliance. The good news here is that OpenStack has succeeded in this space, and we have quite a few customers who have sort of embraced OpenStack. And I'll share with you one of the lessons learned on DIY versus using a provider. So what you see here is basically a hybrid environment which most of these startups have used to build or develop their next-gen workloads and roll it out. As you can see on your right, the green boxes are the container distribution mechanisms, whereas the blue ones are the virtual ones. Majority of the new fintech startups are still going are developing workloads and rolling it out or on virtual machines. Containers are getting there, but they have their feet in both these. There are some applications which are developed on containers and some applications which are rather hosted on containers and some on virtual machines. So what are the key lessons learned? The first one being the designer's triangle and DevOps. Now, financial technology companies, when they build software, it has to be fast, cheap, good, and as I said, it has to conform to regulations and compliance. Now, DevOps, as it exists today, is known to deliver fast and cheap software, but fast, cheap, good under the conditions of regulation and compliance have been a challenge. So many of our customers have been looking to the DevOps communities for best practices on DevOps in fintechs, and it's a very evolving space. So whatever you see as in green or fern color under the major bullet is basically what some of these customers have done to circumvent the challenges. So as I said, many of them are in DevOps events. They're talking to DevOps practitioners, taking best practices from them and implementing it in their fintech environments, but as there is no standard practice available yet on DevOps for fintech, so they basically practice it on their own. And then many of them have gone ahead and hired OpenStack trained developers from the field as against getting their developers trained on OpenStack. That also brings in a lot of new thoughts in the development and organization. DIY with upstream versus provider partner. Now what you see here is many of these startups have burned their fingers putting their team or putting together teams to install, configure, manage the stack, and also do DevOps. And this is burnt many of them a lot. And the recommendation that many of them have shared with us is that they would like to go with a provider partner. And so one of the names is Cisco's Metapod OpenStack private cloud offering that we have. Similarly, we have offerings from Mirantis, we have offerings from Rackspace. Many of our partners in this space, they are being evaluated and tried. Scaling with minimal lock-in, that's the third key lesson learned. And this is basically one of the observations was as the workload started scaling out beyond 50 nodes, OpenStack would fall over. Now, the problem was not as much as with the OpenStack Nova or any other project. It was more with the SDN part of OpenStack, and none of these guys wanted to have a lock-in, vendor lock-in kind of a concept. I mean, they did try NSX, but with NSX, they were all locked into VMware, and this is where they have been evaluating Cisco Epic, Juniper's Contrail networking, Open Contrail. Though these are not these are termed as minimal lock-in, but not as bad as what they have gone through. And last but not the least is orchestration, and application orchestration is very, very critical for these companies because, as I said, they are in the payment industry. You are at a Starbucks and you want to make a payment using a digital wallet, and imagine something goes wrong. You're not able to pay. You've already taken 2 sips of your coffee and you don't have cash, no cards. You're in a big problem, right? So this is where they have to be very, very cautious and careful in their entire orchestration as well. And one of the companies that's been doing good in this space is a company called Cloudify, if any of you have heard the name. And I'll share what that company does. But before that, let me take you through the learnings from choosing the right orchestration tool. So there's no one answer or one tool that meets all the needs. So if you're looking at orchestrating Docker, then the recommendation would be to go with Docker Swarm. If it's microservices, but then you want it in a way that you are not bounded to Docker, then you would go with, say, Kubernetes. And if you are looking strictly at OpenStack orchestration, then you would go with OpenStack Heat. Now, but for, let's say, mixed environments, Tosca, and I'll talk to you about Tosca, Cloudify or Terraform is better suited, though there are some gaps, but TD Bank is one big user of Cloudify. So if you just do a look up on TD Bank, you will see that they are a big user of Cloudify. So so let's look at what is Tosca. Now, before I go to Tosca, as I said earlier, there's no one tool that fits all the scenarios. You will have to use a combination in some cases. But yes, Cloudify has just announced support for Kubernetes and Magnum, so which means stick to Cloudify. You can get both your traditional workloads managed as well as your container workloads managed. So what is Tosca? Tosca, or Topology Orchestration Spec for Cloud Applications, is an OSS open standard specification that sort of describes not only the application, but all the dependencies around the application, including the infrastructure. So it could be cloud infrastructure as well. So Cloudify is an open source implementation of Tosca. And it's basically allows you to deploy complex enterprise applications throughout their life cycle at scale across any platform, and across private cloud, public cloud, traditional workloads, containers, virtual machines, containers, all of that. And last but not the least was the experience with database as a service with Trove. It works. It's been an amazing experience of one of the unique OpenStack projects which has not gone through too much challenges with the fintechs. However, what is important here is when you deploy DBA, when you deploy Trove, there are some things you need to know about scale again. It breaks if you don't take this into consideration. And the tips for scaling being, when you look at the Trove controller, the three elements to Trove: the controller, the infrastructure database, and the transport mechanism for the message bus, right? So if you look at the controller, in the controller there is an API, there is a conductor, and there is a task manager. Now, when you have too many connections, especially in fintechs, when you have a promotion or a sale, there are too many users coming in. You need to plan accordingly. So to ensure that there is you're designing your Trove architecture in such a way that there is enough space for bursts of API traffic coming in. Now, when you do that, you should also ensure that you are scaling the task manager as well as the conductor. The conductor is only required if you are launching new instances, but if you're not launching new instances, but if the same instance is doing multiple APIs, then all you need to do is just ensure that the task manager and the API service are scaled, because the task manager is basically doing the heavy lifting in Trove. So that was all about some of the key lessons learned from fintechs in the space of OpenStack. Thank you.